Alright, let's go ahead and dive in. I got you this note taker to take notes on. The first thing I want to do is celebrate success of your team. So SPED has been on it in terms of meeting deadlines. Compliance was 99% the last time. Rachel did all of her IEP meetings before she left for maternity leave. You have done a ton of new evaluations and IEP meetings. So what are some of the key moves you've executed this year to stay on top of not just your own compliance, but the whole team?
Weekly check-ins with both of them have been really helpful to just say where are we, what do we need to do, and having I think a separate SPED check-in from I think this time it's only focused on SPED and that's what we need to think about. You being in terms of meeting compliance, just using the feedback, being really intentional about the feedback that we've gotten past audits and using that to drive what we're going to be focusing on. And then with audits, I scheduled time with both Rachel and Grace before every audit to make sure that we actually were doing our file corrections, because that was our biggest hit every time.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
So next year when you're their instructional coach and SPED coordinator, how are you going to manage both?
I think again the piece of focusing what I do with Grace right now, since I didn't have Rachel in terms of instructionally, Grace and I have an instructional time and then a SPED time, and I think that has been important in making sure both of the things get done.
Awesome. Okay, let's switch to the data dashboard.
Cool.
What's your when was your most recent quiz in Essential at 1, and what was percent mastery?
Most recent quiz, it was a while ago because we've been, for the last 2 weeks we've been doing their interim performance task, which is the research paper, and then before that was their essays. But their percent mastery was a 35.7.
Okay.
And then Essential at 2 was last week. And their percent mastery was 71.2.
So the 35.7 is concerning. Did you do a reteach with them yet?
Yeah, I agree. It was concerning. We did do a reteach on, I don't remember what those standards are. It's been really helpful to link the standards also. Okay, yeah, this was the, from our last meeting when we talked about point of view. We looked at point of view as a reteach.
And what was percent mastery after you retaught it?
So that was their final. I can pull that up too for Unit 3. Sorry, I forgot what website I had to go to. So on the first, when I took that quiz, out of the PPV was the lowest standard, and with, I'll tell you the percent on that specific standard, 14.3%. And then on their final, there were a lot of PPV questions. It was 50% from the 14 for PPP, 401 and 301.
Okay. We'll talk about next steps with the next quiz at the end, but I'm happy to hear going from 35 to 51 is really big. They got more practice with it before they took the IA2, which was after that, so that's good. Okay. Let's look at togetherness next. So what are your priorities for the week after break?
I'm excited about this. I just filled out that togetherness survey for the Together Leader PD too.
Are you going to April 10th?
So So the week after break, I am focusing on audit, correct, in terms of sped or instruction or both?
Both, what are your priorities?
Okay, in terms of sped, it's getting audit corrections in, because the next audit I think is April 8th, or the week of April 8th.
Okay.
So getting all the corrections in that week, so making sure paperwork is up to date. And then Paul's meeting will be the focus, getting ready for Paul's meeting.
Okay, do you have the time blocked out in your calendar?
I can. On Friday is what I've been doing for paperwork, which has been helpful. Kind of related, should I be concerned I haven't heard from Ward in terms of those times? I don't know.
I would just follow up with her.
Okay.
She went back to work, so she's probably,
Okay.
she won't bother if you follow up with her.
Okay. I will do the 5th and 6th period on Friday for paperwork.
Will you be able to accomplish all this stuff for the audit that day and Paul's paperwork?
I think so, because for the audit, I just have to fix Joseph's IEP,
Okay.
and then I have to write Paul's.
The only other thing I should say that I have noted here that should be on your radar is 6th period push-in, and so you'll have to check in with Mr. D and see if he does need you on that 6th period block day. I don't think so on April 5th because they're taking the mock EOC.
So it'll be actually a different day.
So the 5th,
The 5th is the ACT.
oh, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
The 4th is, so 4th is practice, 5th is the ACT.
Yep, so, and we have a regular 1 through 7 schedule on that Thursday, right? Okay, so.
And you won't need to be in Mr. D's class, so I think using that afternoon period
I'll do 5, 6, and 7
on Wednesday makes sense because you won't
on
have to push it.
Thursday, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so 11:45 to. Cool.
Okay, so you got the sped paperwork time in there and noting that you need to push in the period 6 algebra on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, but not Thursday, Friday. Because Friday we have the ACT, Thursday we have.
Tuesday, we have our coaching session, which I deleted or moved it.
Oh, I can move it. I can move it to. Let's talk about where I'm going to move it at the end when we talk about next steps.
Okay.
I can easily move that, yep.
So clicky. Okay.
Alright, now let's go into your coaching session. Thank you for sending me 2 videos and 2 scripts. I know we didn't get to meet last week because of my old woman injury.
Oh, you're fine.
But in your last coaching session and coaching, your action step was to use guiding questions for the See It that require teachers to pull out the hows of their action step. And I noticed in your script and in the video, specifically on 225, you asked, how does the model effectively transition students to the next rotation? That was a really great guiding question. She named the hows or action step. So what has been the impact of asking those guiding questions that align to the hows of their action step?
It becomes very clear for them what they need to do next. And it's way more effective for her to be able to identify the gap in her management than it is for me to just say this is what's going on.
Great, okay, so I wanna take the time today to dive in next into how you have coachees internalize the content of their coaching session.
Cool. I'm excited about
So first we're going to watch a video of Mary, and I want you to record here what's the impact of me having Mary take notes. So I wanna make sure I give you the exact right clips. 4:45.
Is this history?
No, this is a month ago, 2 months ago.
I didn't even think about that when you're circulating, just to name that one thing you said.
Oh, that's not right. 4:45.
Today.
So she's taking notes the whole time this video is playing.
Super cute. Okay, so what are the key moves he asked you to have students identify the error and then build the solution?
So he named the 2 most common answer choices so that they knew what the error was.
director and have me evaluate about which one's right and why. Then he has the students name the reasoning and explanation for the correct answer. Awesome. I would say after he had them turn in and talk specifically to debrief the answer, and then he polled the room. What's the impact of polling the room?
Should we be adding?
Every student has to respond, so every student has to think about which one's right. Right, it's just another way for you also to check for like whole group understanding too. So when you respond to data,
Okay, I'm gonna go to the next clip.
Thompson, when you're done writing that, can you roll that back to me and read it back to me? I'll make sure we're on the same page for practice. Yes. So guided discourse in response to data, having students identify the error and build a solution. The 4 steps are present 2 work samples using show call, then have students turn and talk, then poll the room, and then the last portion you call on a medium student to answer, then a high student to build off of that with like explanation, reasoning, then a low student to stamp the key error for the solution. What's going to be the impact of that 4th step in particular? You are going to have like the low.
Great, so what's the impact of me having Mary take notes?
She has something like physical to walk away with and reflect on, and I think it helped her identify her own action steps and how to do it.
Great, and I also, one more thing I didn't hear you say is that it helps you check for understanding as a coach. Because in that first clip I showed you, she forgot a part. She forgot pull the room, and because I had her take notes, I could, easily, she read it back to me so I could hear it, but I could also see on the paper.
Also, you're doing it right now.
Oh, because, yes, that's a meta moment.
Yeah,
And you don't have something that I have, so that's
really weird.
I didn't plan that. Okay, so let's take a look at a video of you coaching Mary now. So we're on the See the Gap, or Grace. Yeah, Grace. So what's the gap in how I had Mary internalize the content? I think you're gonna get this pretty quickly, and how you had Grace process. So I want you to specifically think about what's the gap, and what's gonna be the impact then on the likelihood of her implementing the feedback.
Like that, right?
Not being consistent, and that one is narrating, so I haven't been narrating consistently. I made a comment here and there, but yours was pretty continuous with time as well as continuous. Then the other was, oh darn, I this for sure something else. Oh, I know what it was. It was the,
Isn't this the perfect clip?
Yeah, literally.
reminding
She
them
didn't have
to
anything to
be
do
around in both the independent reading and reading.
So what was the gap, and what was the impact?
She didn't have anything to write on, and she literally forgot what she was talking about.
And so how is that gonna impact the likelihood of her actually implementing the feedback?
She's less likely to do it.
Great, okay, let's watch one more clip. This is from the next coaching session, 2:30 to 4:20.
Oh, no, it's
What's the
actually
gap?
Wednesday. Look at my hair.
I know, look at what's the gap, and how is that gonna affect the likelihood of her, if she's a Care Bear?
I do that way more than anything else. Very positive.
Good. Oh, good. I'm so glad. So we're gonna watch the same video from last week. This time with a little bit of a different lens.
Okay.
I want you to think about this time as what do I say to students that leads them to their transition.
Okay.
Think about what I say. And we're not gonna necessarily watch the whole transition because I think you named it, like the transition's going now, but I want you to know what I'm saying, I guess. Reminder of your materials and inside your folder 2010. Jeremiah needs to write down years in college. Scholars and 2010. You're gonna take 1 minute to transition. Reminder of your materials and inside your folder. You should ask your desk. 1 minute, silent solo, go. So what is it that I say to students that gets them?
Well, first of all, getting their attention for the content. And,
She's definitely way more on the right track than the question you asked.
Oh, you're saying when they pull up their eyes, okay, and then before, when they release the transition, what is it that I say to them?
and the next words that come out are when I say no. And,
the gap, and then how is that impacting the likelihood she's gonna implement your feedback?
She struggles to get to the gap, I think. I think it's very,
What is the gap in your coaching?
I didn't give her something
Yeah, great, and then she struggled, keep going,
to get to the gap.
great. And so if she doesn't know it clearly, is she gonna close it?
Mm-hmm.
No, right, okay, so based on this, what's your action step for your next coaching session?
provide her with, some notes.
Right,
Taking note catcher,
why?
So that she is able to, then implement it.
Great, I said provide a note-taking template for coaches so they can internalize the content of their coaching session. There's really not a need to practice this one, so for the do it part, what I want you to do is print, I sent it to you before, the note-taking
Yep.
template,
Mm-hmm.
so print yourself some copies. And Grace does have a coaching binder,
Cool.
but go ahead and print them now so you have them on hand. I find myself more likely to use them when I just keep a stack right here. When I was printing them one off, I would forget also.
You know, the thing is, I also like told myself before that meeting, don't forget, and I think that's also why I just forgot to print, and so having them will be helpful. She's laughing at her singing together. Okay.
Okay, great. So for follow-up things to do, I do wanna talk about Essential Lit 1. When is your next quiz?
So we're starting unit 4 when we get back. I'm very thankful. I'm so sick of writing research paper.
Okay,
So it was gonna be on the 5th, but it's the mock ACT, so it's booked or bumped the next Friday.
to the next Friday. Okay, so I won't be able to do a data meeting that first week then.
And also like that first week is all like it gets them ready for the unit with like vocab, and there's no real content until the second week anyways.
So the first not until,
The 11th or 12th, the 12th.
not until 4/12. Okay, I'm gonna, when we have our next coaching session, I wanna remember to schedule a data meeting for that then.
Okay.
When is your next coaching session with Grace?
It's gonna be on Friday.
This Friday?
Yep.
Great, so when we meet on the 2nd, I can do 5th or 7th that day, which you prefer.
Doesn't matter. Either one. 5th, or are you gonna do 7th?
Let's do 7th,
Okay.
unless
No,
it
it really doesn't matter.
So I'm gonna change your calendar invites moving forward to 1:30 on Tuesdays.
Okay.
When we meet the next time, I'll wanna, go over there it goes, coaching session script and the video, if you could video it again.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be looking for particularly that she's taking notes and you're checking for understanding throughout.
Cool.
Any questions for me or anything you need?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.